Hello and welcome to our webinar about our new certificate program in not-for-profit management in a changing world. My name is Debbie Honorath with Hofstra Continuing Education, and I am Senior Director of Marketing and Communication for Hofstra Continuing Education, but my background for many, many years was in the not-for-profit field, and I continue to serve in leadership positions on several Long Island not-for-profit organizations. So we're very excited to be working with the Association of Fundraising Professionals on this program. And I have in my office two guests, and one is on her way, and hopefully she will come soon. And I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about themselves, and then we'll get started.
Well, hello everyone. This is Pat Clemency, and I have been a part of the AFP of Long Island faculty at a variety of universities over the past dozen years, primarily teaching in the area of board development and major gifts, and that I'm delighted to be part of this new certificate program. In my day job, I am president and CEO of the Make-A-Wish Foundation of Metro New York and Western New York. And I think one of the learnings that I have had being on staff for 25 years is the constant evolution of the world in which nonprofits operate. And this year, being our 30th anniversary, I think we've learned a great deal about the need to change with the times and continue to believe that your mission matters. And to do that, really looking at some of the new trends and techniques that are going to be very important to build that sustainable organization. I will be teaching two courses this semester, one on building a sustainable revenue base and the other one on major gift fundraising.
Hi, good morning. My name is Craig Yaris. I am a continuing education instructor here at Hofstra, teaching digital and social media marketing. I also own a digital marketing agency called Social Ribbit, and I've been doing that for about 4 years now. My background, I am an attorney that no longer practices and found a love of digital and social media, and I am honored to be a part of this certificate program and Hofstra University in general in helping to bring people forth into this new digital and social media world, which seems to be new for so many people. So I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to get started, and I'd like to first talk about how the not-for-profit world is changing. And Pat, maybe you can take the lead on this.
Well, I think the fact of the matter is that as we have looked at the nonprofit world, there's several changes that are happening. The first is a dramatic change that's coming in terms of leadership, as people who came into the nonprofit world in the 60s and 70s are now retiring. And what is happening is organizations are needing to address the need that this is not about replacing that leader, but about fundamentally understanding the different skills that are needed in this new normal and for the future. And so a lot of the change is around leadership. The other part is really around today's fundraising realities. You look at the fundraising environment and everybody's heartened to see a little bit of the fundraising revenue coming back, but in reality, we're not even at 2007 levels yet. And so if we look at that, it could be another 5 years before we see fundraising returning to the levels that it should be. There are some bright spots, and we're going to talk about that in some of the classes, but it's also understanding that from a leadership perspective, from a sustainability perspective, how do we build an organization that does not allow this rapid change to dictate how much of the mission can be delivered, but instead is rooted in an understanding that our missions are really too important to leave to chance. And so we've got to be able to understand the changing realities and how we adapt to them.
I think one of the other things that going along with that is that we have to realize that people are looking to different places for where they're going to give their money. And they're looking to their individual networks now as opposed to the greater public. So they're looking to people they've connected with on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook as to where to best give their reduced dollars themselves. So I think organizations need to be as flexible as possible in how they get that message out there. Not only is the message important, but how they're delivering that message, I think, has changed drastically.
Another important issue, I think, that has really come into the forefront over the last few years is the need for outcomes measurement of your programs. It's no longer enough to say, we're doing a great job, give us money. You really have to, especially with funders like foundations, you really have to give them good, solid numbers that show the success of your programs. Pat,
I think that's right, Debbie. I think the other thing that we have to keep in mind is this is not an optional thing anymore. If you look at the trend in the watchdog agencies, for example, if you look at the Wise Giving Alliance, part of the Better Business Bureau, they have for years now been asking charities to be able to demonstrate how they measure the effectiveness of their programs. If you look at some of the new Charity Navigator standards, this is going to be front and center. So it really is important, and I think in this time of, as Craig says, reduced resources, how is it that donors are going to make those decisions? Well, the reality is the donor is an investor in your organization and your mission, and to be able to show those outcomes is going to be critical to building the case for support.
And I think that goes back to just to business in general. We are business people, and customers are looking for that return on investment. And up until now, I think a lot of nonprofit organizations have gotten by with their, we're doing a great job and and not necessarily demonstrating how. And now we as donors are looking for that return. We want to know that we agree with your organization's mission, but are you meeting that mission? And I think that's an excellent point.
And one last point I wanted to make is talking about corporate support, which has been, especially with banks merging with each other and, less funding available. There's, I hate to say it, less altruism and more, what am I going to get from this sponsorship? Pat?
One of the things we're going to cover in the course on building sustainable revenue is precisely that. I mean, if you look at the corporate strategy, it must evolve. There is no question that corporate partners are looking also for some benefit, and certainly you see that all the time in the decisions being made about cause-related marketing. But I think the days of a company simply writing a check are over. However, organizations are still raising money and in kind, in big numbers through the corporate arena, but the ones who are doing so are understanding that it probably is a multi-tiered strategy to make that happen.
And if I may, in the digital and social media class that I'll be teaching, one of the things we're going to talk about is getting up the corporate ladder, but from a different perspective, from the employees bringing these organizations to the corporate president, vice president, the person writing those checks. And we do that through the use of today's technology, the social media, for lack of a better term, the social peer pressure that we put on each other to help these organizations. And I think that'll help us increase donations from a corporate level.
Okay, so I just want to talk a little bit about the course requirements for the certificate, and then we'll talk about some of the individual courses. It's a total of 80 course hours, 5 required courses, and a choice of 4 elective courses. We will go through each of these in a few moments. So the required courses are 12 hours each. The elective courses are 5 hours each, and you'll see as we go through we try to make it such that there was as little conflict as possible, so you could continue to you could finish the certificate in 3 semesters very easily, completing all the required and elective courses. The courses may also be taken on an individual basis, so you don't have to be enrolled in the certificate program. And, you know, I think a lot of you who are already in the not-for-profit field and just want to update some of your skills, that would be a great solution. So unfortunately, Cindy Dorler has not yet arrived. I'm assuming she's stuck in traffic or something. But the course we recommend people take first, especially if you're new to the field, is Fundamentals of Not-for-Profit Management. And we keep saying in a changing world, and I think hopefully that message has come through loud and clear. So that's kind of the theme that's going to run throughout all the courses. But Pat, maybe you could talk a little bit about how things are done differently in a not-for-profit.
Well, you know, it's funny. Very often, some of my greatest wisdom comes when I go out on a call with a board member who works in the for-profit world, and I listen to how they talk about it. And I think one of the greatest understandings was that really leadership is no different in an organization that's nonprofit and for-profit, except the nonprofit has to be far more creative in terms of the solutions. The first solution is not just putting more money, throwing more money at a problem. It is really understanding how the networks within the nonprofit world can really solve big issues. And so I think that's the first thing. We don't necessarily simply look at a problem internally. The great strength of the nonprofits in solving today's issues is really gathering all of the people that are possibly adept at solving these problems. And that really speaks to the issue of sustainability sometimes. When you look at it, our ability to build networks of people will generate networks of resources, and it's a constant program of pipeline development, not only to address the issues, but also to look at building a robust base of support. So let's talk for a moment about building a sustainable fundraising program. I think I've had questions from a number of people who have taken my major gifts course before, board development, or something else that I've taught. And I would say that the difference here is really Hofstra is focusing on this whole issue of what are some of the new and different things. And so I think this is an opportunity to look at things from a very different perspective. We all know that what is not going away in this world is the increased demand for our services, the proliferation of nonprofits we compete against for the charitable dollar, and the more limited funding that is out there. And so really our focus in the course on building a sustainable fundraising program is really looking about how we build that path to sustainability. And it is so much more than beginning with looking at the individual fundraising programs. In this course, we're going to really look at the institutional readiness for each of the organizations represented in the class to see whether or not the building blocks are there. So we're going to start even with looking at the message. Is the message that you are giving one that builds a compelling case for support and builds a case for future need? When we look at best practices, how are we doing in terms of looking at our fundraising today? You know, we hear so much about our dependency on certain revenue streams that are not particularly efficient, but the reality is if you look at mature organizations and look at the best practices there, it really requires a diversified strategy and less dependency on events. It's a constant moves management with new pipelines of support. I think the other thing that we're seeing that we'll talk about in the class is the shift that is happening from transactional fundraising really into the kind of donor-centric fundraising that is going to transform your ability to engage donors for the long haul. I think all of that ultimately gets into what we need to do, and that is if we have a wholehearted belief that our mission matters, that it's going to matter in good times and bad, and we are unwilling to allow it just to simply take whatever we can get. It's too important to leave to the ups and downs of the economy, and we need to find some way in building this program that we elevate the case for support and elevate our conversation with donors about why this mission matters.
Okay, The next course is not-for-profit finance and legal issues, and again, very, very different issues you're dealing with in a non-profit. And again, going back to what we've been saying about the donors are becoming much more savvy. They're looking at the 990s, which is the IRS form for nonprofits. They're looking at your budgets. They're looking at your salaries. It's definitely become a world where you know, you have to be transparent and you have to really know your numbers. Board staff and volunteer management, super, super important.
You know, I feel strongly that the whole issue of leadership, you know, starts with the board, and this is a critical component of this. I think the other part of it that ties in very much to the changing world is the partnership that exists with the board, the staff, and the volunteers is sometimes the outward sign that this is an organization worthy of support. So I think this is going to be critical in terms of really the good stewardship and the ability to go out beyond the inner circle to really build a sustainable organization.
The integrated marketing, communications, and PR for not-for-profits really is going to take a look at the fact that you can't just choose one way to get your message out there. This is going to talk about all of the tools available to you, including the digital tools that are out there, and the differences there are in marketing a not-for-profit versus marketing a for-profit company. The messaging is much more important in a not-for-profit, and it's important to really take a holistic view of the organization and to see who the target is and how best to reach them.
And Craig, I think it's important to constantly be looking ahead to see what trends are coming down the pike and, you know, being on top of them.
Absolutely. There's no question that the organizations need to be much more agile and much more willing to respond to the market. And I think previously organizations were very much the opposite of that, both nonprofit and for-profit companies. And nonprofits need to take the lead in how quickly they can adjust to what their constituents, to what their membership, and what their donor base needs from them.
And, you know, it used to be that nonprofits were very reliant on the press to recognize them and write about them and do a story about them. No longer necessary. We can tell our own stories now, and we can do our own press, and we can create our own videos and, you know, get them out, you know, on our website and social media and be very proactive about it. Okay, creating special events for not-for-profits. I'm going to hand this back to Pat because I know she's done a lot of it.
I think the important thing about special events today that's different is we all start with special events. But organizations that are really building a sustainable path are understanding that special events are part of a broader strategy. And the piece in this course that I think is particularly important is looking at them as opportunities to engage donors in the life of the organization beyond the event. And that's a very, very big distinction from the kinds of events that are kind of repeated once a year, but really fall into the trap of sometimes special events are not the easiest transition to other forms of revenue. So I think in this course you'll have the opportunity to really look about how that becomes kind of the springboard to other kinds of engagement and support.
You actually, Pat, bring up a good point that engagement from the base is what they need. They don't need people to just come in and write them a check and leave.
Not at all.
They need that sustainable relationship. Just like we're looking for that sustainable donor base, we need the sustainable relationship. And I think planning events and with that mindset is certainly in the organization's best interest.
Okay, and then another elective is about developing not-for-profit programs. And programs mean what you do to fulfill your mission, whether they are conferences, seminars, counseling, granting wishes, or whatever you do. But again, the emphasis is really going to be on outcomes measurement, you know, and building that into the design of the programs. And you know, outcomes measurements, a lot of people are frightened of it, but it's really not as difficult as you might think, and you will learn about how to do that in this class. Strategic planning. I happen to be in the middle of strategic planning with two of the organizations I am on the board of, and it's a very exciting process, and every nonprofit should go through it at least every few years, especially in today's changing world. Very, very important, and you know, I think that's something nonprofit professionals should be familiar with. Okay, Craig, you're on.
Well, specifically the elective that I'm teaching, the digital and social media for not-for-profits, really is going to focus on how to use all of these tools that we really have available to us. And they're just that, tools. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, Google+, LinkedIn, they're all there for us. And I think we need to learn how to effectively use them to communicate our message, which will allow our donor base and our fans to grow our organization for us. It's that engagement, it's that constant communication, it's having events that allow our audience to see how we put our mission into practice. And we're going to talk about all of those things. We're going to talk about the effective use of email marketing. I think nonprofits sometimes forget that email marketing is probably one of the most powerful tools they have at their disposal. The potential donors and their organizations members have given them something that people consider sacred, their email address. And it's a way to talk about how their organization is helping the potential donors. And finally, we will talk about instituting mobile strategies. More and more of us, I believe the statistic I saw recently is that 4.8 billion people on the planet have a mobile phone, but only 4.2 billion people have a toothbrush. So we are going to talk about utilizing that device that is so near and dear to all of us, our smartphone, and how to best use that for fundraising purposes.
And grant writing in a challenging economy, and that's the key. Challenging economy. There's less available funds out there, and how do you make your grant stand out so that you know get the funding? Okay, and so there are several things. For example, just off the top of my head, funders love partnerships. They love, they love to get a grant where there's more than one organization involved, so they feel like they're funding, several organizations at the same time. So that's something that's different and very important. So, and also I think grant writing, it's important to understand grant writing is not done in a vacuum. You don't just learn how to write a grant. You have to understand budgeting. You have to understand programming. You have to understand staffing in order to write that grant. So I think, taking this course by itself, you'll learn something, but I think taking the whole certificate program will be much more rewarding.
This is one of the 5-hour courses, Creating a Major Gift and Plan Giving Program. So for those who have taken the Major Gift course that I've taught in the past, I just want to draw some distinctions. We're really talking about this from the perspective of just some of the most important steps in today's world to build those programs in a very successful way for major gifts and for plan giving. It's a little bit different what we've done in the past, and I think it's important that we put it in the context of what is happening today. While the entire fundraising environment is certainly challenged today, the most hopeful signs of a turnaround are coming in the major gift arena, and you see that in big institutions with mega gifts, but you are also beginning to see in those mega gifts the opportunity for any organization to build a more sustainable major gift and plan giving program that builds a lot more sustainability into the organization. The next course is Building a Strong Board, and we always talk about this as being probably the most fundamental building block in terms of encouraging other support and engagement from other constituents. The reality is that we always talk about the fact that all fundraising leadership starts from the top down and the inside out, and the focus is really looking at how we recruit the board members, but in a way that really drives them from having initial interest in the organization through true engagement that really challenges and inspires their involvement at a greater level. But it's also looking at the opportunity, again, to set the organization apart so that the recruiting and the stewarding and the retention of board members becomes a critical part of your governance strategy.
Okay, so those are all the courses. I just want to say that built into this program will be the opportunity for students who are registered in the program, registered in the classes, to receive career guidance on all these different issues. And honestly, the networking, I think just coming to the classes and getting to know the instructors and getting to know your fellow students and getting involved with the Association of Fundraising Professionals, I think you're going to just end up doing a lot of networking without even trying. But these are, this is a field where there are opportunities for the people who have the right skills.
I am someone who came from the for-profit world, and so working at the Make-A-Wish Foundation is the only nonprofit organization I've worked for. So I think I really want to encourage people to think about these courses not only in terms of developing skills while you are in the nonprofit world, but it's a tremendous opportunity for people who are thinking about an encore career in the nonprofit world as well. And I have seen there's been a great mix in classes through the AFP in the past. And I think that is, to Debbie's point, a very important part of the networking and looking ahead to the best fit for you and the possibilities for a career or upgrading your career in the nonprofit world.
And I totally agree. The skill set that you acquire from these classes will translate both to for-profit and not-for-profit. We're talking about leadership skills. Grant writing skills is not just about writing a grant. It's about good, persuasive writing. All of these classes, I think, are beneficial no matter what sort of career you're looking for. I know from the classes that I teach, networking is an immensely important part of it. It's important when you come to these classes that you talk to the students. You don't sit one row away from everybody because you don't want to engage. These classes are all about helping each other. We're all in this together, and the networking is the way we're going to build it.
So we've come to the end of our webinar, and I just want to encourage you to go to our website, explore the courses further. They will be starting within the next couple of weeks, the fall courses, and going on throughout the semester. We will repeat the courses, at least most of the courses, in the spring and the summer. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me, call me, or send an email. and I'll be happy to talk to you. I've gotten a lot of interest, a lot of calls, and again, because of my background in in the not-for-profit field for many years, I can help you just sort of think things out, explore things, and I'm happy to spend the time to do that. Again, I want to thank the Association of Fundraising Professionals Long Island Chapter. They do an amazing job. It's an amazing organization to be involved with. And if you are a member, you get a 10% discount on all the courses. I want to thank Pat Clemency and Craig Yaris for joining me today, and I look forward to hearing from you and meeting you in our courses. Thank you so much.